Hello everyone, welcome to this session. So today in this session, we will be understanding what is Terraform. So like I said, we will be discussing what is Terraform exactly, and today we will be understanding how we can basically work with Terraform with regards to AWS. All right, so we will see how we can deploy AWS resources using the Terraform software. So let's start by looking at the agenda, what all we'll be covering today. Okay, so guys, this is the agenda. So first, what we'll do is we'll start by understanding what is infrastructure as a code. So Terraform basically it's an infrastructure as a code service, right? So first we will understand what is infrastructure as a code, and then we will move on to discuss what is the difference between infrastructure as a code versus configuration management. So people who are from the DevOps background, they might have heard about configuration management tools like Ansible, like Puppet. So what is the difference between using an infrastructure as code tool versus the configuration management tools that we already implement in the DevOps lifecycle? Okay, so that is something that we will understand. And once we are done with that, we'll move on and then we will talk about what is Terraform exactly. Okay, and we'll understand what it is, what it can do for us, and then once we understand it, we'll go ahead and we'll see how we can get started with Terraform by first installing it on an AWS EC2 instance. So what I'll also do is I will also show you how you can install it on your local, because Terraform is something that need not require a server to run on. It can also run from your local machine. Okay, so that is something also that we are going to cover in the installation session. Once we are done with that, we'll move on and then we will talk about the most basic, or I should say, the most important operations in Terraform. So, namely, there are four very important operations. That is what we are going to understand. And once we are done with that, we will go ahead and understand Terraform code basics. So in that, we will understand what all you can define in a code, right? And if you have to deploy some service or some resource, how you can do that by writing the code for it. So the code is basically a JSON kind of format, so it is going to be very easy to learn for you. So you don't have to worry about, I'm not from coding background, will I be able to get it or not? Yes, this is something which anybody can write. This does not require any prior knowledge about any programming language, right? So we are going to understand Terraform code basics. And finally, we will see how we can deploy an architecture on AWS. So let's say we plan on, deploying some architecture on AWS, how we can go about it. So this is not the only hands-on that we will be doing. As and when, we get hints and or bits or pieces about how we can run Terraform, I'm going to be showing you hands-on as we go along. But in the end, I will be showing you how you can deploy some specific set of services together, right? So that is what we are going to focus on. So this is the agenda, guys. I hope it's clear to you. So now we will be starting off with the first topic, which is what is infrastructure as a code. So guys, infrastructure as a code basically means that instead of going to the management console of your cloud provider, let's say you're working on AWS, right? Now, if you have to launch a server, you will have to go to the management console, then you will have to click at 20 different places to do the configurations, and finally you will be able to run it, right? Now, this is okay if you're doing it for just one time, but imagine a company where probably you are deploying thousands or 2000s of servers or services in a particular cloud platform. All right. So, and let's say you want one day a requirement comes in that you just have to create a replica of it for some work, or let's say you requirement comes in that um, the servers that you're running, you have to upgrade all their hard disks to a certain size, right? Or let's say it just so happens that you want to upgrade the specs, the CPU and the RAM of your systems altogether for all your thousand servers. So how will you do it? So when you're managing an infrastructure at a large scale, it makes more sense to manage it by code, right? Because when you're writing code, all you have to do is you have to run that code. and those changes will be replicated across all of your infrastructure. So that is what basically led to the formulation of infrastructure as a code uh, domain. And in infrastructure as a code domain, you will find a lot of services which supports it. So when you talk about, for example, AWS has a service of its own which is called AWS Cloud Formation. So using the AWS Cloud Formation service, you can do all the tasks that I just told you, right, with a single click of a button. It's just that you will have to write the code first, and only then you will be able to do it, right? Now, there are multiple tools in the market which can do it. The most powerful, I'll not say powerful, the most popular tool in the market right now, it's Terraform. Why? Because I told you that Terraform can basically be applied to any of the providers which are out there. So if you learn cloud formation, it will only be limited to deploying resources on AWS. But if you learn Terraform, if you understand the basics of Terraform, you can apply it not only to AWS, also to Azure, also to GCP, without switching any tool. Okay, that's why people are more pushing towards learning Terraform. Companies are more pushing towards their DevOps engineers to have the skill of knowing of working with Terraform, right? So we'll reach Terraform later, but right now this is what infrastructure as a code is. That is when you manage infrastructure not using the management console, but by writing code, and whatever resources you want to deploy, whatever specifications you want for your resources, all that is mentioned in the code. So that's what infrastructure as a code is. So Naga is saying, what are the alternative technologies for Terraform in the market? Like, well, Naga, I just told you one, which is CloudFormation. Even with Azure, I'm pretty sure there will be an infrastructure deployment service. I'm not pretty sure about the name, but any cloud provider that you pick up, they will have an infrastructure as a code service deployed on their platform. But Terraform is a tool which basically, is does not lock you onto a particular cloud provider. It can help you deploy it in any other cloud domain. Okay. Moving forward, now let's understand what is the difference. Now, this is where people get confused. So, people who probably are from DevOps background, they might find some similarities between infrastructure as a code and configuration management. What are the things in common, and what are the differences between infrastructure as code versus configuration management? Okay. So guys, infrastructure as a code basically helps you to create or destroy hardware architectures, which basically means, let's say you have 100 EC2 servers. On those 100 EC2 servers, you have basically created a VPC inside, or a network. Inside that network, you have those 100 servers deployed. Along with those 100 servers, you've also connected a database, right? Along with that database, you also have a NAT gateway through which people through which your resources, that is your servers and database, are able to access the internet, but the outside internet is not able to access them. So these are some of the resources that you can create or destroy using the infrastructure as a code service. But when you talk about configuration management is limited to deploying software. So let's say you have a fleet of hundreds of thousands of servers, and on all those servers you want to do a software upgrade. Let's say on all those servers you have a certain JDK installed, and now you want JDK 10 or you want JDK 11 to be upgraded on all those servers. So when you have this kind of a requirement, you use configuration management tools, which helps you to change the software components of large scale architectures. But let's say you want to change the hardware specifications of your architecture. In those kind of scenarios, you will be using infrastructure as a code, right? Now, one very peculiar thing about infrastructure as a code is that it can also help you install some software. Now, this might create an ambiguity in your mind that if infrastructure as a code can also install softwares inside a particular, inside a particular architecture, why do we need configuration management? Why don't we install the softwares using infrastructure as a code as well. Right? So it can only install softwares which are required while you create the server. Let's say when you're creating the server, you want Java to be installed on all those servers. Okay, so that Terraform can do for you. But let's say tomorrow you want now on the existing architectures or on the existing servers, you want to upgrade the Java version that infrastructure as a code cannot do for you. So that only configuration management could do for you. So without touching, these servers, without creating or without deleting the resources that you have, if you want to change the configuration of a particular hardware, the software configuration of a particular hardware, only the configuration management tool can help you in that, and not infrastructure as a code, right? Third thing is, this is basically just a warning that infrastructure as a code should not be used as a replacement to CM tools. And similarly, configuration management tool cannot be used as a replacement to IAC tool. So configuration management does not give you the option of managing your hardware. Infrastructure as a code does, but the feature that it gives you of managing the software is only possible while creating a hardware, while changing uh, something on the server. If you want something to be remain if you want something to be there as it is, and at that time you want to run a particular script on that server, that is not possible. You will have to destroy that server, recreate it, and only then that script can be run, in case you're dealing with infrastructure as a code. Okay, so guys, these were the differences between infrastructure as a code and configuration management. So guys, now let's move on to the next topic, which is basically what is Terraform. So now what we have understood right now is what is infrastructure as a code. So we understood that infrastructure as a code. So I was saying that now that we have discussed, what infrastructure as a code is, we have discussed what configuration management is. Now let's go ahead and understand what Terraform is. Okay, so guys, Terraform is basically it's an open source infrastructure as a code software tool, which was developed by a company called HashiCorp. All right, so HashiCorp is a company which basically developed this tool, and it basically helps, or it enables the people who are using the software to create architectures for a particular data center or inside a data center, and also provision it meaning bootstrapping it, right? And it can be done using high level configuration language known as HashiCorp configuration language, but it is basically JSON what we are using. And if for those of you who do not understand what JSON is, we'll just have a look at what it is, and it's very simple to understand. There's no syntax that you have to understand. There are well defined keywords that you again have to don't learn. You can just refer the documentation, and that'll help you out with understanding how basically infrastructure as a code basically works. Okay, so with that said, this is what Terraform is, guys. Moving forward, now let's understand how we can install Terraform for any particular cloud provider, and today the example is AWS. Okay, and the Terraform installation is a very straightforward process. It's very easy. So we are going to go ahead and now understand how basically it works. Okay, so what we're going to do is, guys, we're going to quickly go to our AWS management console, right? Or let me first go to the Terraform official website, and from there we'll understand how we can download it basically. Okay, so let's just type in Terraform download, and the first link that you will get is basically the Terraform software link. So Deepesh is saying, can Terraform be used for on-premises private cloud? Well, Deepesh, it depends. Well, if you have deployed your private cloud using a software which Terraform is compatible with, for example, we will just check. Okay, so let me first go to the documentation, right? So let's check if Terraform So you can check the compatibility of Terraform with private cloud softwares for OpenStack. Yes, so Terraform is compatible with OpenStack. So let's say if you have configured your private cloud to work with OpenStack, then Terraform can control it, right? So yes, Terraform can be used with private clouds as well. Given so you have to understand that uh, anything that basically Terraform works with basically is called a provider, right? So in providers, you can see all these providers are compatible with Terraform. So right from Acme, which I guess is again yet another cloud platform, to GitLab, and then you will also find Docker over here. So it's also compatible with Docker. If we search, do a control F for AWS, it is compatible with AWS, it is compatible with Azure, it is compatible even with Azure DevOps services, right? Then if you search for GCP, Google Cloud, it's also compatible with Google Cloud as well. And let's search for DigitalOcean as well, because that is also yes, so it is compatible even with DigitalOcean. So since it's an open source project, that's why a lot of companies have now started to roll out libraries through which Terraform can interact with their cloud vendors, right? So that is what that is what basically we are trying to understand over here. All right. Okay, coming back. So now, let's start by downloading Terraform first, right? And once Terraform is downloaded, you can use it for any of these providers that are mentioned on this list. So how to configure it is something that we will also, see. But first, these are the platforms that your Terraform is available for, right? So Terraform is available for Windows, it is available for Mac, it is available for Linux, for FreeBSD platforms, OpenBSD platforms, and even for Solaris. Okay, so on any of these platforms, you can install Terraform. I know a lot of people are from Windows platforms, so if you want to install Terraform, it will basically download as a zip for you, and this will also have an exe inside, which you will have to see how you can basically configure. Uh, So for Windows, I think there's also an absolutely awesome Terraform learning platform that they have given over here that you can actually learn from, right? So you can go ahead with this and you can learn how to use Terraform as well. Let me give you this link as well. And for anything other than this session, if you want to learn about Terraform, you can learn from here. Apart from that, installing Terraform, I think this is a link which will show you how you can install it on Mac OS and Linux distribution. Right, with Windows, you will have a setup which you can download, and that will help you, get started with Terraform. It will automatically install a command line tool for you, and you'd be set. For Linux and Mac, it's a little more elaborated. So let me just show how this works. Okay. So first thing, what you'll have to do is you will reach this download page, right? And depending on which platform you are going to use it on, for example, let's assume I'm going to use it on an Ubuntu system. So what I'll do is I just go to a certain region. Let me go to Ohio. And in Ohio, now what I do is I'll just deploy an EC2 resource, right? Let me install a Linux machine over here. So let's go ahead and launch an instance. Now, which instance which I'll be launching, which operating system? I'll be launching a Linux operating system. So let me choose Ubuntu over here. Okay. So there's an Ubuntu.micro option, which is free tier eligible. So I'll be choosing that. And I just need one instance. The rest everything I can leave it at default. Let me choose the default security group. And now let's go ahead and launch it. Okay. So with this, I am now basically launching an AWS server on which I will be installing Terraform. So this server is just like your own system. If you have Linux or Mac operating system, this will show you how you can basically go ahead and install. So Ridwan is saying, are we doing this with you, launching an instance, etc.? Well, Ridwan, if you can follow along, you can do it. But since there are a lot of people in this session, I will not be able to wait. So it's better if you can see this video later and you can practice. For now, you can just watch what I'm gonna do. Okay, great. So now that Terraform is running, guys, what I'll do is let me just connect. Sorry, this server is running. So what I'll do is I'll just connect to this server. So let me open a terminal and let me connect to this server. So for those of you who do not know how to deploy a server, how to connect to it, I'll give you a very short crash course just now. Okay, I'm connected to the server. So for those of you who do not understand how to connect to a server, etc., well, when you're launching an instance, so first of all, you need an AWS account. Okay, so once you have an AWS account, then what you have to do is you will be have to. So this is the landing page that you would be coming on. So this is where you land up. Okay, so the first thing that you will do is you will click on EC2 right over here. So this is basically the server service. This is a service which is basically going to give you a virtual server on cloud. Then you have to click on running instances. And on running instances, you will have to click on launch instance. Okay. So once you click on launch instance, then it will basically, ask you what kind of operating system do you want on the server. So you can select any of these operating systems. I chose Ubuntu operating system because that's the most user-friendly operating system that you can work with, right? So you can select it from here. Next thing that it's going to ask you is how much of RAM and how much of CPU do you want in your server, right? So I chose the T2.micro because once you sign up on AWS, you also get some, free minutes or free hours for your server to run with, right? So this particular server is free to run up to 750 hours in a month. So this is what you will be choosing, and this is enough. 1 GB RAM and 1 core CPU is enough for doing all the hands-on that I'll be showing you, right? So you would be choosing this, and then you will be clicking on next. On this screen, if you do not understand AWS, it's okay. You can leave everything at default. You can just straight away go ahead and click on next. Again, click on next. This is basically going to tell you how much of hard disk space AWS is giving you. So you can just click on next. Here again, you can just click on next. You don't have to do anything over here. Then here it is basically configuring a firewall for you, right? So automatically a rule will be added for you. You don't have to do anything over here. Just click on review and launch. And finally on this screen, this is the most important screen, guys. So on this screen, what you will get is you will get the option of you reviewing whatever you have specified, right? So if everything looks good to you, good to go, just click on launch. So once you click on launch, you will get the screen where basically, so when you work on a system in your office on your personal system, you basically get authenticated using the username and password, right? So when you're authentic or when you're creating a server on AWS, it's a different option, and that option is basically a file using which you authenticate yourself or authorize yourself into the server. Okay, so that file basically has to be created. So in case this is the first time you're logging into AWS, or in case this is the first time that you're creating a server, what you have to do is you have to create a new key pair. Then you have to specify that name of the file. So let's say the file is Terraform, just for example, and then you have to download this file on your system. Okay, so this file will now be downloaded to your system, and this is the file you will use to authenticate yourself into the server. Okay, so once this file is downloaded, just click on launch instance, and this will launch your server now. Now comes the point of connecting to your server. So how can you connect? So once your server is deployed, you can again come back to your EC2 page, and over here you will see the option of running instances. Okay, so running instances basically is the number of the server that you are running. So in my case, I launched this server. In your case, you will see one server which is running. You can change the name by clicking on this edit button and adding the name over here, right? So once the name has been added, the next thing that you can do is just select the server and now just scroll down. So you will find something called as public IP over here. So this is public IP with which is basically going to will help you to connect with your server. So this is the IP of your server, you can say in a brief manner. So now using this IP, you can connect to your server. And if you're on a Linux system or if you're on a Mac, all you have to do is you have to go to your terminal and you can use to connect to it. So I think people on Mac or terminal, they already would be knowing how to do it. If you do not know, just let me know in the chat. For people on Windows, what you'll have to do is you will have to download a tool called Putty. So just go to putty.org, or what you can do is on Google, you can type on download Putty, right? And you will get these links, right? So click on the first link and you will reach this page. Now on this page, you will have to download this Putty software. Okay. So how can you download it? You can click on, you can download Putty here. Just click over here and then it'll give you a file list like this, right? So download the 64-bit version for your system. Okay. So once you download this, the tool will be installed and you are ready to use it. After that, there's one more tool that you have to download, and that download tool is PuttyGen. So you'll be downloading two tools. One is Putty, the other is PuttyGen. Now let me give you the logic why you're downloading two tools. So the first tool is going to help you connect to your server. Okay. And the second tool is basically going to help you use this PEM file which you have downloaded, which is going to help you authenticate in your to your remote server. Okay. So how will the Putty tool look like? Let me show you some screenshots. So once you open the Putty tool on your Windows system, it's going to look something like this. Okay. So this is where your public IP address will go. This IP address of your server, this will go in this particular text box. Okay. And then what you have to do is you have to double click on SSH, which is this particular button. And once you have double clicked on SSH, then this kind of a window will open, and then you have to click on auth. Okay. So once you have clicked on auth, the next thing that you will be doing is this is the screen that you will get. So once you click on auth, you will get this browse button. Just click on this browse button and then go to the file that you have downloaded. That is the PEM file. Okay. Now in order, now Putty, this tool, it basically does not understand the PEM file. So this is where you will basically make use of the second software that you downloaded, which is PuttyGen. So this tool only understands the PPK format. It does not understand the PEM format that you have downloaded. So what you need to do is you need to convert this PEM file into a PPK, right? So how can you do that? So you will basically now go to the PuttyGen tool. Just open that. Okay. So what you'll have to do is this is how your tool will look like. Your PuttyGen tool. You will have to click on load. Okay. And once you've clicked on load, you will basically have to now go to the PEM file that you have downloaded earlier. Once you select the PEM file, these two buttons will get highlighted. Okay. So, and it will get highlighted like 1 second, I'll just show you. Okay. It will get highlighted like this. So once you click on load, you select the PEM file, it will get highlighted like this. And what you have to do is you have to click on save private key. And that is it. So once you click on save private key, it will basically give you a prompt. Do you want to save it without a password? So you just click on yes. And now in the same location where you have this PEM file, a PPK will basically be downloaded. And once you have that PPK, just come back to your Putty tool Click on browse, select that PPK and click on open. Okay. So once you click on open, then it will ask you for the username. So the username, when you have deployed your server as an Ubuntu operating system, the username would be Ubuntu. Hit enter, and that's it. It will not ask you for any password. And once you are on this, the next steps I'm going to tell you. People on Linux or Mac operating system, I think you guys already know how to do it. If anyone has any doubts, you can just put in the questions and I'll be happy to answer. Darshan is saying, can we rename the download key file and it works or not? Yes, you can rename Darshan. There's no issues in that. Nitin, if you still do not understand, what you can do is just search on YouTube how to work with putty, right? And that will be that video on you. There are numerous videos on YouTube for this. That will basically help you out to work on this. But while you're going through the video, I think what I've told you, this should help you out in connecting to your AWS resource. All right. Okay, guys, great. Now that we now know how to reach to the server, what we'll do now is let's understand how to install Terraform on it. Okay. So now we are on a server which is installed on AWS and it's a Linux server. So what we'll do is we'll follow the installation uh, instruction for installing Terraform on Linux. Okay. So what you have to do is just copy the 64-bit link, come to your server, and here you have to type in curl hyphen capital O and then the link that you just copied. Hit enter, and this has successfully downloaded Terraform on your system. It's around 18 MB. Okay, so you can do an ls over here to check. This is the Terraform tool that you have just downloaded, and now what you have to do is you have to unzip this Terraform tool. So if you type in unzip, uh, you can see it's not installed on this server. So all you have to do is type in sudo apt get install unzip. So unzip is now installed on this machine, and now what you can do is type in unzip space download it. Okay, hit enter, and this will unzip your zip file, and this is the folder that you get, the Terraform folder. Okay, and now this Terraform folder, it just has to be copied to a location called user local bin. Okay, so just copy it over there, and then Terraform is installed completely. So how can you check Terraform is installed? Just type in Terraform hyphen version. You can see right now Terraform is not installed. So what you can now do is copy folder which you have unzipped and copy it where? Copy it to user local and then bin. Okay. So you will need a sudo command along with this. Let's enter sudo. And folder has been moved to user local bin. So as you can see, only the zip file is present. So you can just remove the zip file now. No longer needed. And when I type in Terraform hyphen version, you can see it now returns with the version of Terraform. So with this, the Terraform tool is now installed on your system. And that is about it. That is all you need to install Terraform on any Linux machine. Okay, if you're working with Windows, you just download the setup that I told you, and that is about it. If you're using Mac, again, same thing, just copy this folder, copy it to user local bin, and that's about it. Okay, and then you will be able to use it. Okay, so Olu Benga is saying, can Terraform be used with Linux as well? Well, that is exactly what I've done, Olu Benga. So this is a Linux machine on AWS where I've just installed Terraform. Murugan is saying for installing Terraform, same command lines need to be followed for Amazon Linux. Yes, Murugan, you can use the same commands. Okay, great. So I think I've got a confirmation from all lot of people. So, all right, guys. So now that Terraform, we now know how to install Terraform on different operating systems. Now let's come down to using Terraform, how we can use it. Okay. So create a user and use this user to authenticate Terraform to AWS. This we are going to do now. And what I'm going to do is I've showed you how you can install it. Now I'm going to make use of Terraform from my local system. So I have Terraform installed on my system. So let me show you guys. So as you can see, Terraform is installed on my machine, and it says that a Terraform version of Terraform is out of date. The latest version is 1.29. So it's a minor release which they have made, which I think is not going to change anything. So we're going to stick to the version that I have. Okay. Nathan is saying that I've enrolled in Big Data and Data Science Architect course, and AWS is my self-paced course. Is it same? Yes, Nathan, that would be the same. Okay, great. So now, guys, now let's go ahead and start by let me tell you how you can work with Terraform. So first thing that you need to do is you need to create a new folder. Okay, so let's create a folder. Let's call it demo underscore Terraform, right? And now inside this folder, let's go inside this folder. So even in Windows, you can start by creating a new folder and then go inside that folder from your command line. Okay. Now, once you're in your command line, let me just make it a little bigger for you guys. Okay, this now should be visible to everyone. Okay. So now that you are in your command line, what I'll also do is I will use an IDE like Sublime, and let me open the folder. Okay. So inside this folder, you will have to initialize Terraform. How do you initialize Terraform? That I'm going to show you now. Okay. So I hope this is visible to you now. If it is, can you let me know? Noor is saying, what are the things you need to know before getting started in Terraform? Well, Nuruddin, I think I've told you everything that you should know. But since we are going to deploy resources on AWS, I think a little knowledge about AWS would be necessary. Okay, great. So guys, first things first, you will first have to initialize Terraform on the terminal, right? So how can you initialize this? Just type in Terraform in it. And mind you guys, I'm inside my folder and then I'm initializing Terraform. Okay, so just hit enter. So it now says Terraform has been initialized in an empty directory. Okay, so when you initialize it, it's necessary to also mention the cloud provider that you're going to work with. How can you mention that? So first, create a file in your folder and call that file as main.tf. TF is the extension for Terraform files, and main is the name of file that I'm giving right now. Okay, so create a file called main.tf, and in main.tf, now enter this syntax, which is going to be provider, then in quotes, specifying the cloud that you're going to work with. So I'm going to work with AWS, right? And let us deploy all resources in a certain region. So which region can we deploy our resources in? So I think we are in Ohio right now. So how do you tell Terraform that you want to work with Ohio? So let me show you that. So all you have to do now is go back to your AWS management console, and now you just have to select the region that you want to work in. So let's say I want to work in Oregon region. So let's go to Oregon. So now it's switching the console to the Oregon region. Seems the AWS side is a little slow, so please bear with me. Okay, so I'm inside the Oregon region now, and what we are going to do is just check the code that is in front of the region that you are in. For example, it's US hyphen West hyphen 2. This is the region code of the region that you want to deploy resources in. Okay, so you have to mention this region name in your code. So what you'll say, you will type in region equals to, and then you will type in the name, the code of the region, which in our case is US-West-2. Okay, that's about it. And then you will have to enter two more things, and I will be telling you those things in a little while. But first, you have told Terraform that you want to work with AWS and you want to work in the region US-West-2. So just save this file, and now what you have to do is just come back to your terminal, right, and type in Terraform in it again. So now you can see it is checking for available provider plugins, downloading plugin for provider AWS. So now it is downloading all the plugins for the AWS cloud provider into the folder that you're working with. And once it has initialized it successfully, you can see Terraform has been successfully initialized. So now Terraform, the one that you have basically right now installed, it now knows how to talk to AWS cloud. Okay. But what it doesn't know as of now is how to talk to your particular account, right? It knows it wants to talk to AWS. It knows it has to talk to the Oregon region. But what it doesn't know is what is your user account and password. So when you want to specify your user account and password in Terraform, you do not use the username and password. What you use is something called as secret key and access key. Okay. And how can you get that in AWS? Just go to your AWS management console and open a service called IAM. So just click on this AWS icon over here. You will come back to the dashboard, and now just search for the service called IAM. Go inside the service, and inside the service you will have to create a user. So let's click on this user. So let's create a user. Let's call it Terraform. Now what this user wants is programmatic access. So check on this. So this programmatic access, as you can see, it's going to give you an access key ID and a secret access key. And that is what we need in order for authenticating Terraform to your account. So click on next. And now you would want to give it administrator access. So how can you give it administrator access? Just click on attach existing policies. And here the first policy that you would see is administrator access. Just select this, click on next, click on review, and click on create user. Now, when you're working in production, guys, obviously you will not be giving it administrator access. You will have to learn AWS in a more detailed manner, and then you will understand that how to set boundaries to a particular user, what kind of services it can touch, what it cannot, and accordingly we'll be setting the permissions for your user. But since we are not learning AWS today, we are learning Terraform. I've just given all access to this particular user. Now I will be copying the access key ID into my code, and I will also be copying the secret access key, which is this. Don't worry, after this session I will be deleting this user, so you don't have to worry about me exposing this credentials. And then you will have to enter so whenever you're defining anything in Terraform, the first keyword that you have, it should not be enclosed in braces, or it should not be enclosed in inverted commas. It should just be written like this, and whatever value you are entering, that should be entered in inverted commas. So these have to be inside inverted commas. Okay. And then here you will be specifying access underscore key. Okay. 1 second. So access underscore key, and this would be your secret underscore access underscore key. Secret underscore access underscore key. Now let's say you're not sure of what keyword you have entered over here, so you can always recheck it in the documentation. So Terraform has very awesome documentation to follow. So what you can do is just go to terraform.io, and once you're on it, just click on docs and click on Terraform CLI. Okay. Or actually not here, you have to actually go on tutorials. So in tutorials, then what you will be doing is you will be finding a lot of topics over here. So right now what we are doing is we are basically building infrastructure. So the first topic is in this is uh, configuring with AWS. And right now, I just want to see what is going to be the syntax for the access key and the secret access key. So let's say you're not able to find anything in the documentation. What you can also do is just search for it. So access underscore key Terraform code. Okay, so here it is. It's AWS underscore IAM underscore access underscore key. Okay, AWS underscore IAM underscore access underscore key. And similarly, you will have the secret as well for this. So secret key AWS Terraform. So this is the variable for that. So let's mention over here like this, and let's mention over here. Okay. So with this, now I think your provider is configured. How can you check if this is going to work for you? Let's verify. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, let me know. So Arvind is saying, is this HashiCorp config lang syntax? Yes, Arvind, that is it. Ranjit is saying secret key is kind of a service account in GCP. Yes, Ranjit. So in GCP again, you can create users, and you can do that using you can create service accounts, which will again give you some credentials through which you will be able to authenticate your code for GCP services. So that's exactly what you will be doing over here. Gospel is saying, what is this open file? Is it like Notepad? So this is Sublime, Gospel, that I'm using. Ranjit is saying, what are the other things we used to do with Terraform in real time? Well, Ranjit, it's basically used to deploy infrastructure, and we were doing that in this session. So Monty is saying, can we write this using JSON? So Monty, this is exactly what JSON is also, right? In JSON, the only difference is that this also is included in inverted commas, but that is not what you do when you're working with Terraform. Only the values after equal to have to be included in inverted commas. Chaitanya is saying how to connect Terraform and Red Hat. Well, Chaitanya, Red Hat is an operating system, so you do not connect Terraform to Red Hat. Okay, all right. So now let's verify if this is working for us. So what I can do is we can start by creating an EC2 instance by using this Terraform code. So how can you create an EC2 instance? Just type in resource, right? And if you're using an IDE like Sublime, it can also give you, suggestions. But I'm not going to use the suggestions for now. And what kind of resource that do I want to deploy in AWS? I want to deploy AWS underscore instance. Okay, and then I will be specifying, an identifier for this resource. Let's call this example. And now let's specify this resource by putting it in braces. Okay. So the first thing that you specify when you're creating an EC2 resource is you specify an AMI. Okay. And in AMI, you basically specify the AMI ID. And how do I know we need an AMI? Well, it's very simple. Like I said, just go to the documentation from Terraform. And here you can see this is the code for creating an EC2 instance. So first you have to specify AMI. This is the AMI ID. How will you get the AMI ID? Go back to your management console. Click on launch instance. So the first thing that you have to choose is the operating system, right? So that operating system is basically called AMI, meaning Amazon Machine Image. So whichever operating system you want to deploy, just copy the AMI ID for it. So let's say this is what I want. I want to deploy an Ubuntu instance. So I'll just copy this AMI ID, come back to my code and put the AMI ID over here. Okay. Next thing that I will be specifying is the type of resource that I want to launch, right? So is it going to be a 1 GB machine, or it's going to be a 2 GB RAM machine? So that is something which is called as type. Okay. So you can see that there are various configurations over here, and every configuration has a name attached to it. So if I want a 1 GB RAM and a 1 GB core CPU, the type is called T2.micro. Okay. If I want a 2 GB RAM and 4 GB RAM and 2 core CPU, it is called T2.medium. So based on what type I want to deploy, I will have to specify in my code. So let's say the type is T2.micro. Okay. So this is the AMI ID. This is the type that I want to deploy. And now what I do is I just go ahead and create it. So let me just change one small thing over here. This will be called access key and this will be called secret key. Okay. And this is the resource that I want to launch. So we'll just save this. And now let me show you how you can deploy it. Okay. So Vaibhav question. Vaibhav, let me answer it once I deploy it. Just give me a few moments. So now what I do is I will let me just come back to my slides first, and then I will show you. So there are four basic operations in Terraform. First is init, which I've already showed you. So that init operation basically downloads any dependencies which might be there for working with your code, right? For example, I wanted to work with AWS. So in my file, I specify that I want the provider as AWS, and then I did init. So what I did, it download all the dependencies for working with AWS cloud. The next operation that you work with is plan. Okay. So now that I've written the code, I can ask Terraform the plan. So what is the plan that it is going to work with? So I'm just going to type in Terraform plan. And now it will show me what all things Terraform will be creating for me with the code that I've written that is over here. So I've just told Terraform that I want an AWS instance to be created with this AMI ID and this size. And other things which are required by Terraform, for example, uh, what size of hard disk to be attached to it, etc. It's gonna take it as what do you say? It's gonna take it as default. Now, whenever you have any errors in your code, is basically going to show over here. For example, it says in line 7 resource AWS instance example, resource AWS underscore instance example, the argument instance underscore type is required. And then it give me one more error that there is an unsupported argument that I've entered, which is type. So this is clearly telling me that in line 10, I have to specify instance underscore type instead of just type, because type it's not able to understand. So what I'll do is I'll just simply copy this, come back to my code, replace type with instance underscore type, save this code, and again go back to my terminal, again type in Terraform plant. So now it's reading my code, it's understanding what has to be done. It's also taking in some default values which I did not enter. So Terraform only asks you values which are required. There are some values that if you don't enter, it will take it as default. Okay. So this is the plan that Terraform has given me, that this is what it is going to deploy in my AWS machine or AWS account. So it's saying the AMI that Terraform is basically going to use is this AMI ID, right? The other thing that says it can only be known once it applies it. The instance type that it is going to deploy is T2.micro, and other it's saying it can only be known after creating it. Okay, so here one thing to understand is when you see this icon which is plus over here. So plus, whenever you see plus in your Terraform plan, that basically means it's going to create. When you see anything such as minus, that means it's going to delete. And when you see, another sign, so I'm going to show you that sign in a little while. It's called a sine curve sign, or there is another term to it. I'm not remembering it right now, or escape sign if I'm not wrong. It basically tells you that it's going to modify. Okay. So now once you verify, okay, so these are the settings that it's going to do for my Terraform infrastructure. Now what I can do is I can type in Terraform apply. Why Terraform apply? Because that's the third operation that you have to do. So first you initialize it, then you plan it, and then you apply it. If everything looks good to you in the plan, you apply it. So once I click on Terraform apply, so but before you do that, let me just come back to my EC2 console and let me show you that right now there's nothing created inside it. So if I go to running instances, there is no instance which is created over here as of yet, right? And now what I'll do is I'll just click on Terraform apply. Now it will take a moment and it will first go through the plan and then it will ask me whether you want to go ahead with this plan or not. So you have to enter yes, hit enter, and now it will start creating all these resources for you in your AWS account. Okay, so as you can see, it's creating. It will take some moments, probably it will take 20 to 30 seconds, and then it will create the architecture which you have specified. Okay, so right now we are just creating a very basic architecture. I just told it that I need a server of the type Ubuntu. That's it. Slowly and gradually, as we progress along this session, I will be showing you how you can do even better things than this. Okay. So meanwhile, if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, Vaibhav was saying, is it good to learn Python to get good opportunity in AWS? Well, Vaibhav, yeah, I mean, any programming language will work. So if you're starting to learn any programming language, yeah, Python would be a good start. And how to get AWS free access? Well, Vaibhav, the first time, all you have to do is sign up on AWS. So once you sign up on AWS, you automatically get signed up for the free tier that we are using. So the only limitation is free tier we can only give you 1 GB RAM and 1 core CPU. That is T2.micro server free. No other server will be free. Okay. So as you can see now, it says apply complete resources. So one resource has been added, zero has been changed, and zero has been destroyed. So if I go back to my management console, if I hit refresh, you can see that automatically a server has been created for me now, right? And this server, basically, if you see the key, there is no key specified over here because obviously we did not specify the key. So as and when we will be moving along, we will be changing all these settings as well, right? So everything is default. The only thing is it is the instance type that we mentioned is t2.micro, right? And the operating system that it basically deployed is Ubuntu, all right? And this is how you create a resource using Terraform in AWS. Alok Benga is saying, what is the major difference between CloudFormation and Terraform? Well, like I said, Alok Benga, in the starting of the session as well, CloudFormation is a very specific service just for AWS. But when you talk about Terraform, it can be used with any cloud provider. So if you learn the Terraform tool, you're not only restricted to working with AWS, you can work with any tool. But if you learn CloudFormation, you can only work with AWS, no other tool. Ranjit is saying YAML and JSON both languages need to learn for Terraform. No, so only JSON is enough, and there's nothing to learn, Ranjit, in this. So as you can see, this syntax is very straightforward. First, you specify what you want to deploy. So I wanted to deploy a resource. Then you specify what type of resource I wanted to deploy an AWS underscore instance. Then you give a name to this resource. So I given it example. Then all the arguments that are required for this instance to be deployed, I mentioned that. Then equal to, and then the value of that resource or that argument. That is it. So Arvind is saying, what about the name of the instance? So Arvind, we will be coming to that in a little while. Ranjit is saying we can also do VPC setup and pod related configuration Terraform. Yes, Ranjit, you can do it. So any resource in AWS you can create using Terraform. No resource is left behind. Any resource, whether it be Elastic IP, whether it be VPCs, whether it be databases, everything can be created using Terraform. So Alok Banga is saying, can you please show again how you link Terraform to AWS console? Well, all I did was I created an IAM user, Olabanga. So once I created that IAM user, I got this access key and secret access key. You just mention that over here in the provider section of your code, and that is it. That's how you connect to your AWS management console. That's it. So probably if you want an in-detail discussion, you can go through this video again once you get it. Monty saying same on Azure also. Yes, Monty. The process is going to be the same. Only the argument names might change. For example, when you're using Azure, there's nothing called an AMI in Azure. So this AMI might have a different keyword, but yes, the resource block will have to be created. The resource type will have to be specified. Provider has to be specified. Region has to be specified. So all these things will be the same. Ranjit is saying use cases of Terraform, please. So Ranjit, the use case of Terraform is to deploy infrastructure on a particular cloud platform. It could be any infrastructure component. It could be network. So whatever you can do using the management console, you can do using Terraform. But why would you use Terraform when you are dealing with large infrastructures? For example, right now you just created one instance. You can create multiple instances as well. Okay, so let me show you how. So first, let's understand uh, how do you read what you have deployed. So I don't want to go to the management console now. I want to know what is the IP address of my server. So I can just type in Terraform show. So with Terraform show, it will show me the infrastructure that it has deployed now. So this is the details of the infrastructure that I've just deployed. So my resource is deployed in US West 2C, right? This is the availability zone, right? And it has, this is the public IP address of my instance. If I talk about the size of the volume of my instance is 8 GB. Okay. So now let me give you a very small example how you can basically use Terraform or why is it so popular among production environments. Let's say my manager comes and he says, you know what, my server is running slow. Can you change the volume size of my server from whatever it is right now to 100 GB? So I was like, okay, great, I can do that. So I don't have to go to my AWS management console and I don't have to learn the syntax as well. Okay, I'll just type in Terraform show. It will show me the current configuration of the server. And here I can see that this root block device is specifying the EBS details or the hard drive details of my instance. And here I see that the volume size is 8 GB. So what I'll do is let me just copy this. Let me come back to my code and I'll just paste this over here. And now I'll just delete. I'll just edit what I want. So I do not want 8. I want this 100. Okay. I'll save this. Come back to my terminal. I type Terraform apply. Now there are going to be some errors in this. Obviously, there are going to be some errors because you cannot just copy and paste, right? So, but if you read those errors, you will understand how to change your code. So here it says root block device dot zero device name. This field cannot be set. Okay, and then it says volume ID. This field cannot be set. So if I come back to my code, device name, I will have to remove this. So let's remove it. Then it says volume ID. Then I can just remove this as well. Cool. Save the code. Come back to your code again. Type in Terraform. Apply. And now what it's going to do is it's going to see what your current state of your instance is, and then it is just going to change the volume, or you can just see. So let it just load, and then I will show you what Terraform is going to change for you in the architecture. Okay. So now this is the plan, Terraform plan. This is the Terraform plan that you see, right? So this is the icon that I was talking about. This is the icon that I was talking about. So this icon basically means update in place. Okay. So it's not going to delete your server. It's just going to update it, right? So what all is being changed? So first of all, I have changes in this resource, which is AWS instance example. Great. So everything over here, nothing is changing as there is no icon over here. What is changing? only my EBS or my hard drive is changing, and in my hard drive only the volume size is changing. So right now this is the IP address of my EC2. It's going to remain the same. This is the network details of my EC2. It's going to remain the same. What is changing? Only the hardware size, only the hard drive of my instance is changing, and that to the size. Even the hard drive is going to be the same. So if I have some data on this hard drive, it's going to be the same. The only thing is the size is going to be different. So what I can do is, it's asking me, do I accept these changes? I say yes, I accept these changes, and now it is basically going to apply these changes to my instance. Now, obviously, not all these. So let's say I specify that I want to uh, probably change the availability zone. It is right now in 2C. I want to deploy it in US West 2B. In that case, obviously, the instance will have to be deleted and it will have to be redeployed. So not all the changes can be changed on the same server. Some changes will require your hardware to change. In that case, your Terraform plan will tell you or tell you like what all changes have to be done. Only when you accept these changes, it will go ahead and change. So right now, as you can see, it is making the changes to my architecture. And once those changes are done, it will give me a success message over here. Darshan is saying this, there is not security issue while using Terraform. Well, Darshan, what I've just used here is, now what you can do is you can create a credential file in Terraform where you can have these access keys and the secret access. So in that case, developer will not take those two keys that you're using. Other way to use this would be, say, if you're using CLI, AWS CLI. So again, you can configure the AWS CLI, and again, the credentials will not be exposed. If you're using this on AWS, right? So in that case, you can just attach a role to your instance. And if you attach a role to your instance, again, your credentials are not exposed. Right? So there are various ways you can authenticate yourself to Terraform. Today, I'm not going to tell you the best practices because that is entirely going to be a different session for best practices. Today, we are just learning how to use Terraform, and that's why we are not focusing on the security aspect of it. But obviously, if production architectures are using Terraform, obviously the security is rest assured fine over here. So okay, so now as you can see, the messages apply complete, resources 0 added, 0 destroyed, and 1 changed. Okay, so here it also tells you that what has been deleted, what has been added, and what has been changed. So now if you check the volume of your instance, so all I have to do is go to the hard disk and here you will notice that now the hard drive that is attached to this instance, uh, uh, it's basically your 100 GB volume, and it's not 8 GB anymore. Okay, Siva is saying, is it possible to do LVM on while creating instance on Terraform? I'm not sure what you mean by LVM, Siva. Can you go ahead and expand it? Okay. Darshan is saying, at the same time, can we install 500 instance later on? We will upgrade. What about data? Uh, can we install 500 instance? It's not installing, Darshan, it's deploying. Yes, you can deploy 500 resources if you want. Later on, if you want to upgrade, what about that? So we just upgraded, right? So we upgraded this particular instance. You can see the hard disk size over here. It's now 100 GB, right? So we've just upgraded the server with 100 GB hard disk, and it just happened. So same happens. So in this code, I just specified one resource as of now. I can specify more resources. So what I can do is, let's say now I want to create one more resource, one more server I want to create. Let's call this resource as example two, right? Uh, this server I want it to be a medium server, and this time I want the volume ID to be 50 GB. Okay, so I'll just save this, come back to my terminal. I tell it to Terraform apply, and now you will notice it knows already that there is one server which has been created. So now what I'll do is it will just create a new server. Okay, If there are any errors, so there's going to be one error while I'm doing this, and it's going to show that error right now. So first it's going to show me the plan, and then it's going to ask me, do I agree to that plan or not? Okay. So as you can see, it says plan one to add, one to change, zero to destroy. Okay. What is being added? Uh, so right now I have specified IOPS as 100, I think, over here in my code. Okay. So let me remove these IOPS. So I don't want it to change it. So I'll just not agree to the plan, do enter value and no, and then I'll apply it again. So only my second instance will be created now. And you can see the other instance, it will not touch it. Okay. So here you can see that example 2 is being created and no other option is being shown over here. So example 1 or example resource or example instance is not even mentioned over here. Why? Because it's not going to touch it. Right? So if I enter yes over here, it will automatically deploy another EC2 machine for me. So likewise, if I mention multiple servers, it will create multiple servers. So it's just about mentioning it over here in the code. If I mention 500 servers, it will create 500 servers. Okay. Arvind, how can we ensure that only size alone is scaled up, but there is no data loss? Well, Arvind, that's because over here you could see that the volume ID, when I applied the previous configuration, you saw that volume ID was not changed. Can you see? The volume ID is not being changed. So if it's the same hard drive where the date where basically the size is increased. So if the hard drive is same, obviously there is no deletion of hard disk, which basically means that my data is being preserved. So that's basically an AWS feature rather than Terraform feature that you can upgrade your hard drive size without losing your data. Okay. Gopakumar is saying, is Terraform used in Azure too? Yes, Gopakumar. So Terraform is used in can be used in any cloud platform. So in the starting, I showed you the providers page, right? So in the providers page, you saw so many uh, cloud providers mentioned. So any cloud provider can be used out of those. We are using AWS in this case. Siva is saying logical volume manager. Well, Siva, if you want to use logical volume manager while creating instance on Terraform, I'm not sure because Terraform only works with the code. So that's why it's called infrastructure as a code. So I'm not sure if you can use a UI for that. Definitely saying same configuration instance can be deployed easily for all the time. We have to copy and paste formula. Mohanty is saying it has just extended the HDD size. Yes, Mohanty, exactly. Olive is saying, can we add load balancers and auto scaling to instances created by Terraform? Yes, Olive. So, like I said, any AWS resource can be deployed over here. But then you will have to mention in code where exactly will the load balancer be connected to, and that can be done. But you will have to dive deeper into the code. And once you do that, yes, any and every resource can be deployed in AWS. Okay. Gopakumar is saying, is that only used for infrastructure as a code or can be used for solution deployments? Not sure what you mean by solution deployments, Gopakumar. Can you uh, probably elaborate that? Okay. Angel is saying, what happens if something fails during applying operation? Very good question, Angel. So if something fails, then whatever was created, it is rolled back. So it will give you a failed message over here, and whatever has been created will roll back. It will not leave things in between. Okay, so that was about it. So right now, when I applied, so if I click yes over here, guys, it will create one more instance, but I don't want to do that. So I'll just hit enter. No. Okay, let me come back to my code, and now let me show you. Somebody asked what about giving a name to your instance? So if you know AWS well, you will understand. So let me first type in Terraform plan. So you will understand that the name in an instance is basically a tag. Okay. So, not plan actually. I wanted to show you Terraform show. Okay. Terraform show. So this will basically show you the current infrastructure which has been deployed. So you can see something called as tags over here, and there is nothing mentioned in tags. Okay. So all you have to do is you have to mention in tags the name of your instance, and then that would basically go ahead and apply it. For example, right now, if you talk about my instance name, there's no name. So this is the tag name. There is no name attached to it, right? So what I can do is I can just go to my code. I can in my resource of EC2, I can go ahead and create an argument called tags. And how will you know this argument basically is there? By reading the show configuration of your infrastructure. It says there are no tags specified over here, right? So I can just go to tags and then mention this inverted braces. And here I want to specify the name, right? So how will you specify the name? So when you're inside tags over here, you're not working with Terraform now. Now you're working with AWS. So here in tags, the key will go inside inverted braces, inverted commas, and similarly, the name will also go in inverted commas. So let's say this is Terraform hyphen instance. Save it. And now let me come back to my console. Here I will say Terraform plan. Now it will tell me if this is what I changed to my code, how is my infrastructure going to be impacted? So as you know, if I'm just changing the name, nothing should be changed instead of just the tag. Instead of just the tags section, nothing will be changed in my instance. So that is exactly what will be showed over here as well. So it says 0 to add, 1 to change, and 0 to destroy. And what will be changed? I can just check the plan over here. So it changes, tag will be changed, and here this tag will be added, and nothing else is being changed, as you can see over here, right? So everything looks good. Just type in Terraform apply, and now what will happen is it will change the name. So I'll just type in yes, this is what I want to do. So it's modifying the instance, and as you can see, the instance has been modified. And now if you check in your management console, if I just refresh it, I think we mentioned, so I think I mentioned the key as wrong. So this has to be capital N if I'm not wrong. Let's check, because it's case sensitive when you are specifying the tags. Or let me just do a refresh from here. So the name has to be in capital. So I'll just click on apply again. Yes. So like I said, it's case sensitive. So now as you can see, the name has been changed to Terraform hyphen instance. Okay, so this is how you can put the names as well. So Ranjit is saying if you want to execute any script to run applications, yeah, sure, Ranjit, you can do that. I'll show you in a little while. Okay. Then Gopakumar is saying solution deployment means application code level changes. Well, if there are application code level changes, Gopakumar, then you have configuration management, right? So you will be using that. You will not be using Terraform. Gopakumar is saying also what's the difference between AWS CloudFormation and Terraform? Well, it's the same. I mean, they both achieve the same goal, but CloudFormation is just specific to AWS, and Terraform, like I told you, it's open source, so it can be used with other cloud providers as well. Darshan is saying if any error, then how to check? Now name syntax is not correct. Well, the syntax is correct, Darshan. What happens is when you're specifying tags for your instance, you can specify any tag. So if you go in AWS over here, I can add a name tag as well. So I can just specify name over here, and I can specify Terraform. Okay, and I can save it. So it will not give me any error. It will just create a new tag. So since this is not an error from AWS point of view, Terraform will also not give me an error. But like I said, if you want your name to come here, it has to be case sensitive. It has to be N capital, and only then it will come. Okay, so that's why you're not getting any error on the Terraform console. Okay, Ridwan is saying, where do you give software install info at bootstrapping? Well, Ridwan, there is something called as user underscore data. So you have, so when you deploy an EC2 machine, okay, Angel is saying, is there any way to check syntax before applying or planning? Yes. So, Angel, when you do Terraform plan, in that case, it gives you all the syntax errors which will be there. And I think there's a syntax for checking this. There's a command for checking the syntax as well. So let me just check syntax Terraform. Okay, so the command is validate. So if it and tender Terraform validate, it will give you the syntax errors. For example, let's say I add one more brace over here, and let me save it. And now let me say Terraform validate. See, as you can see, it is telling me that there's a error over here in the code in line 16. So I can just go to line 16, change that error, save it, and then type in Terraform validate again. It says the configuration is valid. Sampath is saying, how do we get the schema? So schema is Sampath by Terraform show. So you can get the schema like this. So this is the format, and using this format, you can configure your server in more detail. Ranjit is saying, can we roll back the code if anything is wrong in code? Well, if you mean by what if you mean you want to go back to the previous state of the server, yes, you can do that. And I think again, yes. So there is something called a state RM. You can use this to change the state. So we are not discussing it today, so I will not be uh, telling you that much in detail because otherwise others will get confused. But yes, you can do that. So if you do a simple Google search, I think it will answer your question. Deepesh is saying, I see that it asks yes or no for all the number of instances. If I have to create 100 instances, then I need to say yes 100 times for applying Terraform apply. Deepesh, for applying the code, it will only ask you once whether you want to apply it or not. Okay. As you saw, if I mention two servers over here, it will just show me the configuration once, and I have to just approve it once. I don't have to enter 100 times yes. Ranjit is saying where the Terraform relates to infrastructure as a code in DevOps. Um, well, Ranjit, when you're deploying resources, let's say if you want to deploy your code somewhere, right? First, you will have to ensure that architecture is present. Only then you can deploy it. So now what you can do is in your GitHub, you can upload this Terraform file as well. And using Jenkins, you can deploy this infrastructure on the slave where Terraform is installed. So once this infrastructure is deployed, the next step would be to do configuration management. The next step would be to build your code. The next step would be to deploy your code. So that's how you can think about in terms of DevOps pipeline. Terraform is saying Terraform schema so that I can know what attributes and values should be specified. Otherwise, it would be difficult, like for tags. Well, like I said, once you do Terraform show, these are all the arguments that you can specify. Okay, so once you deploy a resource, you can see that these are the things that Terraform has configured for you. You can see over here what you can want to configure and what you don't want to. In case you want to know it before deploying, then you will have to refer the documentation. There's no other way. So now I will be showing you how you can install a specific software on a specific server while you're deploying it. Ranjit is saying any prior knowledge needed to before go for Terraform. Well, Ranjit, it helps if you know AWS beforehand. So any cloud provider that you want to apply it on, the knowledge of that cloud provider will help you. So if you're learning Terraform, and I'm assuming you want to learn it for your company, for your job, you will have to know about that cloud platform that you want to apply it on. Okay, great. So let's go ahead, guys, and now let's see how we can basically install a software on a particular server that we're trying to deploy. So when we deal with servers on AWS, there is something called as what do you call user data. So we can just check over here. There is an argument for user data, And if we are able to find that, we can mention that in EC2. Okay. So we are not able to find user data over here. So what we can do is we can go to Terraform EC2 user data. Okay. So here we go. So it has to be specified in the AWS resource block, and the key name would be user data. So let's do it. So let's say I want to install, first I want to update the machine and I want to install, let's say Apache 2. So what I can do is I can create a sh file over here, and let me create it using Sublime itself. So in this Terraform folder, what I'll do is I'll create a new file, and let's call it install.sh. And in this, let me write a script which is going to install the stuff. So I want to first update the machine, and then I want to install Apache 2, right? And then in my Terraform, what I'll have to do is I'll have to go to my Terraform file that I wrote, and then what I can do is I can mention user underscore data equals to, and then I can mention the file that I just wrote, right? In my case, it's install.sh. I'll have to mention it like this. Okay. So now what this is going to do for me is it's basically going to run this shell script, run this shell script for me on the server that is being deployed. Okay. Now, can anyone tell me if I want to run this, what will happen? If I run this file right now, will it delete the server and install it again? Or will it run, or will it change this user data on the same system? So Deepesh says it will delete. Okay. Others? Sampath says it will delete and run. Okay. Siva says it will just run the user data into the instance. Okay. Ranjit says it won't delete the server. It will run and not delete the server. All right. Darshan says it will not delete. Mohanty says will run without deleted. Okay. So let me show you what will happen. So I will not tell you what will happen. Let me show you what will happen. So let's save this file. Come back to our Terraform. And here we'll do a Terraform plan. So this will tell you whether the instance will be deleted or not, right? Let's hit enter. Okay, so let's see what all things are getting deleted for us. So you're getting a sign like this. This sign basically means it will first be deleted and then it will be created again. Okay, so AWS instance must be replaced because of the changes that we have just told it to do, right? So it is going to keep the ARN, it is going to change the ARN, it is going to change the IP address as well, it is going to change the availability zone as well. CPU core count, uh, this will be the same because we have mentioned t2.micro, right? So it is not changing. So this will also not change. It will change this setting, it will change this setting, it will change this setting, it will change the host ID, it will change the instance ID. Why? Because the instance ID is getting created again, right? So all these things will change, and user data only then will be added. Okay. And guys, this is why you cannot use it as a configuration management tool. Ramakrishna is saying, do not delete the VM, just install Apache. Well, Ramakrishna, if you're doing it using Terraform, that is not possible. Okay, because the user data setting, it cannot be changed. So what is user data? Let me show it to you. So when you're dealing with this particular instance, if you go to actions, if you go to settings, and if you go to view or change user data, I cannot type anything here. It says to edit your instance user data, you need to first stop your instance, right? So if I want to add user data to this machine, it can only be added once I stop this machine. And user data only runs when your machine restarts. Okay. If I restart the machine, I lose the IP address, right? I lose a lot of things. I just lose the IP address. I do not lose the other things. But when you're using Terraform, Terraform as it knows it's not used for configuration management. It knows that, right? So it finds it more easy to delete the hardware and redeploy it with the data that you want, right? So that's why if there are any software changes that you want to do, you do not have to use Terraform. Use configuration management instead, because in that case, it will not touch your hardware. It will only change the software that you want, right? So in what case would you want user data to be added to your servers? When you want your servers to have a pre-configured software once it's deployed, right? And that's why I was stressing it from the beginning of the class that never use infrastructure as a code tool as a replacement for configuration management tools. Somebody asked me as well, why can Terraform replace Ansible? So this is your answer, no. Because Terraform will only change your hardware. It should not be used to change your software. Right now, I'm not changing the software. I'm just telling Terraform while you're deploying any new servers, install the software as well. That's what I'm telling it. And that's what it is also understanding. And that's why all these things, are basically being specified over here. Okay. So now let's see what is going to happen. Okay. So I'll just do a Terraform apply. And now let's see whether it installs the Apache 2 software for us or not. So all those people who were saying it will delete the server and then it will deploy it, you guys were right. You guys were bang on. Okay. So now I'll just type in yes. So now just have a look at the instance ID. Okay. Since it's being destroyed, it means it's being deleted, right? The new instance ID which is going to come up, it's going to change. Okay, Shikha is saying, can Terraform module version be locked anyhow? So is there any command to unlock? So when you say Shikha locked, you basically mean that no one should be able to change it, right? So this will only be it can be done using only this particular folder that you have created, or if you basically upload it on GitHub, only in that repository you will be able to change it. Okay. If you're saying can it be locked, I'm not sure. I don't think it can be locked, but if it can be, I'm not sure. I've never came across that requirement. So as you can see, it says destruction complete after 36 seconds, and now it is creating it. Also, guys, in order to see if Apache 2 is working or not, what we'll have to do is in the security group, which will be basically used, I will have to open port 80. So we will just check. So it says apply complete, great. So if we refresh this, again, you can see the previous instance has been deleted and the new one has been created. And the new one is still getting initialized. Okay, so let's wait till it gets initialized. And what we can do is we can go to the security group, which is this, which is default. And I think in the default security group, although the inbound rules allow us, but let me just verify it if that is the case. So yes, everything is open. Cool. So I don't have to change anything here. And now let's just verify if we are able to see Apache 2. So if I go to this IP address, it refused to connect. It means it's still installing the software. So you can see the status is still initializing. So let's wait for it to initialize, and then it can basically show us the Apache 2 software. Okay, cool. So I think our website should be up. Okay, it's not up yet. Okay, let's try this. Let me go to my instance. This is the IP address. This is the code. Okay, it's not running. Let me just figure out why it's not running. Give me a moment. Okay, I think I've figured out the reason. So when you run this command, it basically asks you yes or no while you're running it, right? So let me give you a small example. Uh, so let me, I think I should have an Ubuntu container running. Let me show you by running an Ubuntu container and running that same command. So this is an Ubuntu operating system, okay? So if I run apt-get update, it will update it, right? It will take like 30 seconds to do it. And when I install Apache on it, you will see it asks me whether I want to, whether I confirm it, whether to install it or not. Okay. So apt-get install Apache 2. So can you see it's asking me, do you want to continue? So that's where the command is right now stuck. So in order to solve this, if you enter apt-get -y install Apache 2, it will run, it will not stop. And that is exactly what I will have to do. So let me just delete this container. And then I'll show you how we can get it done. Okay, so coming back to the code, so I will have to add -y over here, save it, come back to my Terraform, Terraform plan. So even if I'm changing install.sh, you will see that it will be able to identify that there's a change in the shell script. So as you can see, uh, it has understood that there is something to be changed because I changed the shell script file, right? So what I'll do is I'll just apply Terraform apply, and now it will do all those steps again for me. And the instance that I'm going to have now, it's going to have a part installed. Okay. Ranjit says few of .tf files like main.tf. Didn't get your question, Ranjit. Okay, Darshan is saying, is there any logs to see errors in Terraform? Well, Darshan, when you basically run this command, all these, uh, all the errors or everything will be coming over here. So what you can do is, if you want to log them, you can run a script in the background which is going to log the whole terminal. So that is going to log everything. And I think even in Terraform, when you initialize the Terraform directory, there's a .terraform which is created. So if any errors come, I think it will be logged over there as well. But I will have to check. I'm not sure about that. Okay, Gospel is saying, does it mean we were supposed to install and update Apache 2 before launching our hardware on Terraform? Yes, exactly, Gospel. So right now you can see the apply is complete. That means again the EC2 instance would have been deleted and it would have been created again. So now you can see there were two machines which were deleted. Okay, and this is the machine where our Apache 2 is being, it should have been installed now. This is the new IP address that we have got. And let's put it right now and see whether it's working. I think it will take some more time. So until and unless this initializing icon is there, that means your instance is still going through the process of being installed. So it'll take a minute or so, and then it'll work. Ranjit is saying, what kind of backends are supported by Terraform, console, users, Vault? Well, Ranjit, it depends on what kind of cloud provider you're using, right? So other than that, the if you mean does it support credential storing, etc.? Well, you will. It does that. So there is something called as config files in Terraform, right? So those config files you can specify whatever you want. There is also something called as variables in Terraform. There's a lot of other things that you can check, uh, but everything to be covered in this session will not be possible. We'll have to go through the documentation once. Okay, so as you can see, Apache has now been installed on this new machine, that we basically just deployed. And guys, this is how you basically make use of Terraform to deploy any hardware. Now, let me, I had a file that I already created earlier. So let me show you that file. So this is a file that I've used, which is going to create a lot of things. So first, it's going to create an instance, and it is going to mention the key name for that instance as well, right? Then what I've also done is I've created a VPC in this Terraform file, and in this VPC I've attached a subnet as well. So this VPC I created, and then I created this subnet in this VPC. In this subnet, I also specify the IP ranges, and then I specified that this subnet has to be used in this VPC, right? Then I specified that you can also create a security group where the all allowed settings should be used. And then I created an internet gateway as well in this VPC, which will then be added to a route table, right? And this route table will be having a route, which will basically be this, right? I also created a network interface, which is basically used to connect to an instance which will be created in this VPC. And then I attached this network interface to the EC2, which was being created. So there are a lot of things that I've done over here, right? So this, if you want to go through this, what I'll do is, let me copy this code and paste it in your chat. So you can just go through this code and you can try this out on your end once you're practicing Terraform. And once you're going through this code, you will understand a lot of other things as well, right? And how did I make this code? Like I said, I also do not know the syntax of Terraform. I don't know all the syntax of Terraform. So what I did was I went through the documentation. I went through each and every step that I wanted to recreate, and that's how I created this code file. So it took me about half an hour to 40 minutes, but there are a lot of resources that I'm creating here, right? So you can just go through that, understand how it's done, and I think that would be it, guys. So that's all that we had planned for you today, right? So just through recap what we just did today. So whenever you're coding, so first thing you will have to provide type in a provider, right? So in our case, it was AWS. So this is the block type that you type first. So this block type specify what type of block or what type of code you are specifying. So first you specified a provider, so you will have to write a provider. In case you're specifying a resource, it will be a resource over here. Inside the curly braces, you will have to specify the configuration of the block type, and that will be in the type in the format of key value pairs, right? And then I showed you how you can deploy an infrastructure using Terraform, and I've also given you a code which is basically going to deploy an elaborate architecture as well. So you can go through that. So with that, guys, we come to an end to our session. So I thank you all for joining in today. I hope this session was useful to you.